biodiversity conservation. And today we have a panel discussion in which we have Yash Gupta. He is today's anchor. We have Manya Bajaj representing the educator community. Manya Singh representing the political community. Chetan Sharma representing the science community, and Richa Yadav is representing the environmentalist community. And we have a lot of other students as audience who will be asking questions to all the panelists about the burning issue of the proposal to construct a dam on River Yamuna to meet the electricity supply for Delhi. So over to you, Yash. Oh, we have the celebrity there. Yes. Over to you, Yash.
Yes. So we will first start with Manya Singh. What are your views on building dam on environment?
Being the Deputy CM of Delhi, we have decided to propose a plan regarding building a dam on the banks of River Yamuna. Along with it, we would be creating many other things for recreational activities. Even we will be creating temples, as Yamuna is a very holy river. And all of this would add to the state's economy. It would help people and it would all over flourish our state's economy. And it would provide a lot of employment as we would be building it. So a lot of labor would be required for maintenance. We'll have departments. So overall, it would be a good policy for the state in the coming future.
Okay, so Chetan, what are your views?
The dam would have many negative impacts on the environment. Like, since the water reservoir will be standing water, it will help the mosquitoes breed and might trigger an malaria or dengue outbreak in the city. And since the rivers carry sediment with them, the soil after the dam would not be able to be as much fertile as it was. And the reservoir will collect all the organic material which will produce a lot of greenhouse gas which will make the temperature of the city even higher than usual. In some cases, the heavy weight of the water of the reservoir results in triggering of earthquakes in the city, and since Delhi lies in the factor zone of 4 of earthquake, meaning it can have the second most damaging earthquakes due to the dam.
Okay, I agree with you. It will have negative impacts. Okay, so Manya, what are your views?
Well, as Manya already said, there are quite a few positive impacts, but nobody can deny that though dams provide relatively green energy, they're as disruptive to the environment as fossil fuels. They will cause the people living near the area to be displaced. And since the people won't have any proper claim on the land, they might not get any proper relocation facilities by the government. The area around the dams would be submerged, disrupting the environmental cycle, and there will be a huge loss of biodiversity. Also, the freshwater ecosystem of the river would be disrupted, as the organisms living there would be used to a river-like system and not a lake-like system. The dam building has a very high cost, and as centuries of dam building has shown, dams are not as reliable as thought in theory. They Once a dam breaks, it would cause huge losses to any communities living downstream. So even though dams have quite a few positive impacts, the cons are overweighing the pros in this project.
Okay, so Richa, now it's your turn.
Hello everyone. I totally oppose the point of Manya saying, though dams store water, they provide renewable energy and prevent floods, but it worsens the impact of climate change. They release greenhouse gases, destroy carbon sinks in wetlands and ocean, deprive ecosystem in nutrients, destroy habitats, increase sea level, waste water, and displace poor communities. I want to show a video which will give you a reality check of building a dam.
If you think about the way a river works in a landscape, it essentially functions as the circulatory system. It drains the waste products off of the land. And that sediment is the stuff that basically structures habitat in rivers. And then once it gets to the coast, it builds beaches. It creates the offshore environments. That flow of material is incredibly important ecologically. And building dams disrupts that. But there's another aspect to rivers in terms of flow back upstream that most people don't tend to think about. And in the Northwest, that's greatly mediated by salmon. Because when salmon leave their native streams, they're little fish. When they come back a couple years later, they're huge. They put on like 90%, 95% of their body mass in the marine environment. And what that essentially means is that a large fish run, the kind of fish runs we had historically in the Northwest, you can view as a nitrogen pump that's basically scavenging food out of the oceans and bringing it back on land. It feeds the bugs, the trees in the forest, they feed the eagles, they feed the bears, essentially fertilizing their own world. Anything that blocks a river, like a dam does, limit their access to part of the world that they need to complete their life cycle.
The 4 dams in the Snake River in the upper reaches of the Columbia Basin are a clear overshoot, and they are, in my judgment, largely responsible for the destruction of the salmon runs that we used to see all the way up into the Rocky Mountains in Idaho.
The Snake River Basin holds today the largest intact remaining set of pristine salmon habitat left in the lower 48. We're talking over 5,000 miles of stream habitat in central Idaho alone. If we took out the 4 lower Snake River dams, salmon and steelhead would have access back into all those areas.
There should not be 4 dams on the lower Snake River, choking out the most important, wildest salmon refuge left. 5,500 miles of high elevation streams, more resistance to global warming than any other watershed. If the salmon runs were restored, that would be the jumping off point to this unbelievable wilderness nexus that is really one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Dams change the habitat. When you disturb the habitat, it can be detrimental to the native fishes and beneficial to non-native fishes. The river is no longer a river, it's a lake, and the lakes are full of predators that like nothing better than to eat a nice young salmon smoke. The Pacific Northwest right now, according to the Oregonian newspaper, spends $1 billion a year on salmon recovery, and they're not getting very much for it. There are study after study now that are showing that hatcheries present on a river reduce the survival of the wild fish.
The primary purpose for these dams always was transportation. It was to make Lewiston, Idaho a seaport.
The only reason it's just slightly cheaper to send wheat down the river rather than putting it on the railroad, which runs right along the river corridor, is because of the subsidies. Given the fiscal condition of this country, the budget issues, now's the time simply to remove that subsidy. And you'll find the wheat growers doing very well on the railroad.
A dam is a means to an end, and we've got it the other way around now. We look at them as end states. They're built, they're there, they're going to stay there forever. And their intent was to increase the economic output of a region in the country. And so when they stop doing that, they're no longer viable. A lot of the work that we've done on the economics and costs shows that if you keep the dams, the national economy is losing at least $150 million a year. These 4 dams are really expensive to operate. And the minute they diverge from that end state that you're after, you ought to look at them as wait, we need another tool here. Is it wind energy? Is it solar panels? Let's look at this as a means, not an end.
The beautiful thing about salmon is that if you look at their history, they're incredibly resilient. I mean, if you give them half a chance, they can come back.
When you remove the dam and the river becomes a river again, the complexity begins to reappear.
There's a ripple effect of restoration that moves all the way through the river basin, all the way upstream.
Removal of the lower Snake River dams is one of the big jewels embedded in the holy grail of salmon recovery.
This would be the biggest watershed restoration in North America, if not on Earth, if we did this.
It's the largest possible salmon recovery venture of which humanity is capable, would be simply the removal of those 4 dams.
Thank you, Richa. That was an eye-opener.
Yes. So this video talked about the habitat fragmentation. Dams present a barrier to fish that need to migrate to reproduce downstream and upstream along a river. This not only impacts the population of the fish themselves, but it can negatively impact other species in the food chain that either eat that fish or are preyed upon by that fish. I want to ask that how you will be recovering this big loss of habitat.
Okay, so as we see in the video, it says building a dam will have adverse effects on the environment and it will have effects on aquatic life also. So we cannot afford to do it. But I will ask some of the students to ask questions from the panel.
I think we have amongst us a celebrity. So let's hear the views of Sarthak Salman Sharma Khan.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I do think dams are very necessary for our transition to green energy? And if environmentalists and common people are opposing the construction of dams, how would they compensate for rising demands of water and energy? Second, if they are opposing the construction of dams, they are indirectly supporting burning of fossil fuels as solar and wind energy can't provide reliability in energy sector. How would you counter that?
Manya Singh, Mantriji, please respond to the questions put up by Sarthak Salman Sharma Khan.
Mami has rightly said that if people are against the construction of dams, then how will they fulfill the demands of the growing population, the growing demands of electricity? People need resources, but they're against any construction of dams. Then they think that the nature is being hampered. I think all of these are tactics of these educated people. They do say that these things get affected and all of that, but we have a court, we have a proper system to look after that. If it would have been such a serious problem, the court would have never allowed the construction of any dam in the country. But if the court is allowing, the bodies are allowing it, so it's actually beneficial for the population and people should understand it.
Manya ji, I think what you are saying also carries weight, that because we need to provide energy as well as we need to provide employment to people of our city, and both of these are in short supply. But Manya ji, would you please, explain us that have you got an environment clearance from the National Green Tribunal regarding this? And what is their take on it? Because nobody can deny the harmful effect of the dam construction on the environment of the area.
Yeah, sure. We have just started the project. We have just proposed it to the state population and the bodies that are concerned with this, and we'll soon get a clearance certificate from all the independent bodies that are required for us before starting the construction. And we'll not do anything illegally or take shortcuts. We'll ensure that everything goes proper step by step.
We really appreciate your answer as well as your commitment, Mantriji. But we have Mr. Sarthak Salman, who's representing very poor people as represented by his picture. So they want to know that how will you how all these poor people who are being displaced, who get their livelihood from the river, whether it is the fishermen, whether it is the vegetable vendors, whether it is the laborer, all these people, how are you going to compensate them?
To all the laborers, we have definitely, when we are constructing something, we require a lot of labor and a lot of people's hard work going into it. So they will definitely be employed, and or to all those fishermen, they would be provided with alternate careers. If not, they will be provided with a huge sum for their house, for their relocations, and everything will be ensured by the government, and nobody would be hampered unnecessarily, or nobody's livelihood would be disturbed and not relocated.
All right, so I think there are two comments coming in. Yash, which comment would you like to take first? We have questions from the educator community, Manya Bajaj, and the environmentalist Richa. Okay, so the environmentalist Richa, would you please put up your question?
Yes, ma'am. I guess Manya Singh is well aware about these facts that people and their livelihoods are affected when the areas and they live, when dams are being built up. So I want to ask, there are many dams which are built across the country, but I have seen that no resettlement plans have been implemented. So I guess you are one of those who are implementing those fake promises resettlement plans.
We have not built any dam. I'm from Aam Aadmi Party and I'm responsible for us only. What other political parties have done in their states and what are their policies are not at all concerned to me. I am sitting here and promising that all the people who will be disturbed will be relocated, and I can assure that very well.
So I want to ask that how, so okay, fine, you are ensuring those resettlement plans. So how will you ensure the recovery of the big loss of habitat? That is, I talked about the habitat fragmentation. How you will reassure about that recovering it?
This is clearly a case of either I can conserve the species and the habitats and I can provide development to the city, to the state. So out of the two, I would definitely go for the development, as all of that can be dealt with that. We can deal with it later. But what is important for us right now is the development of the country, the development of the state. And for that, dam building and construction is a necessity.
So Manya, we will take your views now.
Yeah, I have a question from Manya. You said you'll give them alternate career opportunities, but most of the people who you would displace have only one career option. They only know how to fish. They don't have proper education. They're not literate. So how are you going to provide alternate career options to them?
To the fisher, the people who fish, we can they are not educated, but they have some amount of skills, so we can use their skills to build alternative careers for them. We can get them into construction work or the selling work, the street vendors, and we will do it.
Well, that is there, but you would be displacing millions of people. So, how will you put millions of people into construction? That would be a liability for the country in the future, would it not?
Not all the people would be put into construction. We have a lot of skill development plans going on by the Delhi government. We'll put people there, we'll get their skills developed, and we'll provide them with alternative careers. Not all the people can go into construction. We are also very well aware with that.
And what if the people don't want to learn any other skills? They just want to fish. What will you do
And
then?
their livelihood is getting displaced. They cannot sit and say that we only want to fish. They have to do something for their survival.
It should actually be their choice if they want to be displaced or not. You would be forcefully displacing them.
For few lakh people, we cannot like put the future, the development at stake for 2 crores. So we need to be a little bit more practical for that.
Manyaji, we have also heard that you have signed up a memorandum of understanding with Salman Khan's company to open up a big recreational resort in the place next to the dam. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am, we'll be building up a recreational resort with all the water sports and activities there. And it would also be a tourist attraction, and also the industries would get a good chance of growing up.
So should we understand that you will receive a lot of support from the film industry, and they will be doing a lot of promotion for your project and building up the public opinion so that you get an approval from the NGT as soon as possible?
It's not for that I want the approval from NGT, that we are getting support from the film industry. The film industry people there are very educated, very well versed with everything. So if they are supporting us, then you can think and form an opinion that it is a really good work. And if people like Salman Khan are supporting us, then it is definitely something that's necessary and essential for the state.
So has Salman Khan agreed to be your brand ambassador?
Yes, ma'am, he has, and he'll be soon shooting all the ads that we'll get on the display holdings and the television commercials.
So Richa ji and Chetan ji, how are you going to save the environment if they have the support of the industrialists, they have the support of the film industry, they have the media on their side? So how are you going to protect poor fish, the flora and fauna of the Yamuna basin? How are you going to do it? It's going to be a big task.
Yes, ma'am, it's going to be a very big task. But I want to know, with the celebrity, that they are taking Salman Khan as a celebrity. I want to know that is he well aware about the fact that the speed of flowing water will slow down and the sediment can be deposited on the reservoir bed? Are you aware of it? And this leads to a compromised water table, reduced water levels, and thus reduced ecosystem variability. Now, due to this, there is a loss of water. Now, if they're not only having water, if in case due to the dam formation, there will be a huge loss of water. So how will you be supporting your statement in this?
Salman Khan ji, Sarthak.
I would just say that dams provide a very reliable source of water even in drought and prevent flood in the lower floodplains, which can boost agriculture in those regions and prevent property losses in the long run.
I guess you are not well aware about the fact that over a number of years, the sediment in the reservoir can build up and it reduces the space available for storing water. So how are you saying that it will not that there will be no loss of water?
Manya ji also wants to make some comment.
Yeah. Over the years, as Mr. Salman Khan said, it would reduce the possibility of future dams and loss of property. But over the years, if the sediments keep getting deposited, they may damage the dam. And if the dam breaks, the loss of property would be huge. So, how is it that the loss of property is being reduced?
Chetan ji, would you like to talk about the positioning of the dam in the seismic zone of Delhi?
Ma'am, the heavy water, the weight of the water would be very heavy and of the organic matter collected into the river, which will cause severe earthquake in the Delhi and further loss of property in Delhi.
Yash.
Yes, ma'am. So my question to Manya is, you are sure that you will give people employment when you will build a dam, but why they will be ready to build because their livelihood is displacing, even if you are giving them salary or compensation.
We are not giving them salary, we are giving them an alternate livelihood. And if there are any um, um, any suspicions left that we will not be able to do it, then it is to inform all of you that we have set up a GRA, grievance redressal committee for all of these, for taking care of all these people who would be getting displaced, and they'll make sure that everyone gets back to their normal livelihood after a while after the construction of the dam. So you need not get worried about them.
Sarthak Salmanji wants to say something to everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as Manya said, millions of people are already fishing in the river, which is causing huge environmental degradation for the habitat. So how would they, you know, compensate all the loss of fishes and fisheries in the river when so many people are fishing there?
The building of dam is actually going to lead to extinction of some fish species if they cannot travel upstream or downstream. So, and fishing is essential for the ecosystem in a way. Overfishing is bad, I agree, but if you stop fishing at all, the overpopulation in the river will again cause disruption to the ecosystem.
Thank you very much, everybody. A very, very good discussion. And my congratulations to Manya, the way you fielded questions from every end. And in the end, I mean, undoubtedly, it was Manya saying your day. And you have a bright career in politics. You can be a management head anywhere because you have the confidence, you have the poise to answer all kinds of rebuttals. And you will all agree, children, that issues which are such in nature, they are not easy to resolve. And when decisions and policies are made, these are made keeping into mind all stakeholders, their comments, their oppositions. Still, there cannot be a perfect answer to this situation. Okay? There cannot be an answer which will take care of everything. Yes, building a smaller dam or dividing the river into two were good options so that we could have best of both worlds, right? But how feasible they are still needs to be checked up. But as active citizens, it is our duty to be involved in every kind of decision making by participating and asking questions, right? So therefore, we conclude this chapter for today and we'll take up the ex situ and in situ conservation methods in our next class in the next panel discussion. So I would now request all of you to bring in the cases and case studies and examples of ex situ and in situ conservation methods. Okay, so we'll continue with this discussion in the next class. Thank you everybody for joining.